From Wisconsin, this is making news. The Democratic Governor Tony Evers facing backlash for supporting a budget proposal that would remove gendered terms in state law. Now, if passed, words like mother and father would be replaced with more gender-neutral terms. Mike Tobin's got a read on that. He's live in Chicago. Mike, what's the idea? Hello.
Well, Bill, this one's got everyone from Elon Musk to Brett Favre chiming in with criticism. Wisconsin Democrat Governor Tony Evers is changing language in the state budget, particularly the word mother is being replaced with inseminated person and person who gave birth. Father gets replaced by the gender-neutral term parent or spouse. The language about the mothers appears in part of the budget about subsidizing care after artificial insemination. Evers used words like moms and dads when he explained himself to a reporter yesterday. He said the language is just about guaranteeing that moms will have access to the care they need.
What the Republicans say is a lie, so of course I'm pretty PO'd about that. All this does, it gives people a chance that are using IVF, which I think Republicans are kind of okay with that.
But in that 1,900-plus page budget, gender-neutral terms for mother and father are inserted dozens and dozens of times. The language is included in everything from sections on birth, marriage, and divorce, but also sections on taxes and state hunting and fishing license. An abstract from the governor's office about the budget says the gender-neutral language was inserted to, quote, harmonize Wisconsin statutes with the Supreme Court decision that recognized same-sex marriages. One Republican state lawmaker says this is about minimizing the importance of mothers.
There's a concerted effort by the left to push mothers and fathers out of the scene and take your children and make them wards of the state. And no matter what the election results are, they keep going on this narrative.
Now, Elon Musk chimed in a couple of times on X. The latest one he wrote, "Hi, Mom. I mean inseminated person." The language does not have any direct impact, but putting it into the record would set a precedent. Wisconsin Republicans hold the majority in both houses, so they have the ability to strike it down. Bill?
Right, we shall see. Mike, thanks. Nice to see you in Chicago. Mike Tobin. Dana.
Well, there's another woke issue Democrats are doubling down on. The state of Maine has become this flashpoint in the fight for fairness in women's sports in recent days after a transgender athlete won a pole vaulting competition there. Here's Maine State Senator Laurel Libby.
And it tells me that Mainers and Americans don't want to see boys in girls' sports. They know it's absolutely unfair, given the biological advantages, to allow boys to compete against girls. We're going to see scenarios like this over and over again, with a boy dominating females and winning podiums and championships that rightfully belong to these girls.
Mayor Katharine, host of Getting Hammered, and Faiz Shakir, former Bernie Sanders campaign manager, are both here. We talked a little bit about this on The Five last night. I hadn't seen this. This is from Charlemagne the God. He had some thoughts. Watch.
Why are folks still talking about trans athletes? Like, that is a losing talking point. America's not with it, and they keep making a micro or macro with that conversation. It impacts such a small group of people, but it makes a whole lot of people think folks lack common sense. So why are they even having that conversation? And I can't believe it's states that still want to die on that hill. Like, none of these states have a high percentage of trans athletes. So what's the issue?
I started with Faiz last week, so let me start with you, Mary Katharine Ham, this week. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, Charlemagne is on the money here. It is an 80-20 issue about boys competing in women's sports and protecting women from that in this arena. And the Democratic Party hasn't recognized that. They're stuck, a couple years ago on this issue. And as Charlemagne says, they are making a micro into a macro. In the very successful trans ad that Trump won, that got a lot of play on a lot of football games during the election and was very effective, he's making the argument as a symbol for these folks don't care about you. These folks have taken this suite of issues that does affect a small people and turned it into the conversation. And they're not worried about inflation, or they're not worried about how you're living your life. So I think that's the symbol that they have communicated to everyone, and it's not effective in electoral politics right now. And any 80-20 issue, don't be on the 20 side.
The 20% is a hard one. James Carville weighed in as well, Faiz. Listen here.
If you feel like that you have to protect these girls from, I'm not sure what, I don't really understand it or give a but it's a big goddamn issue to you. Whenever this topic comes up, say, look, I'm sorry, I just don't think a lot about track meets. I think a lot about people having affordable health care. I think a lot about how we can grow America.
What do you think about that advice he has for Democrats?
That would be common sense, and agreed with everything that Mary Katharine Ham said. And I'm frustrated the Democratic Party is not focused on some bigger fish to fry right now. You got federal workers being fired, all kinds of things going on with Medicaid, things that should be the bread and butter of a Democratic Party, but you're focused on the wrong things. I would say, though, however, if you're President Trump, you're also threatening Maine with removing all funding, right? He's threatening to take away all their Medicaid funding, education funding, transportation funding, which I don't love the precedent of. You can disagree with the policy, say, hey, Maine, change this policy, but to deprive them of the funding is a weapon I don't think any of us want to see used, because you have Democratic president go into Texas and say, hey, I don't like your policies on LGBT or choice issues, therefore I'm going to remove all your funding. That's not a great precedent.
Doug Schoen has been a longtime Democrat. He wrote this in The Hill, that Democrats need to make a compelling case to win back America. Voters have little idea what Democrats stand for. They must begin with a messaging strategy that speaks to the issues voters care about: the economy, public safety, and border security. And Mary Katharine Ham, are they doing that?
I don't think they are at the moment. I'm not sure they know which direction to go here. In the past, by the way, Biden did try to take away school lunch money from states that didn't recognize his new Title IX formulation that was later knocked down in federal courts. So this has happened before, and I agree with Faiz that this is not a great precedent to be throwing around. You can disagree with these policies. I think I'm sort of surprised by Carville, because he's usually has a better pulse than this to say, like, we don't care about that at all. But again and again, I think the problem for Democrats, as we see in, I believe it was with Evers that you guys reported on, with this inseminated person thing. By the way, dad gets to be parent and I have to be inseminated person? Like, what a terrible deal. But that message, if he overturns that, right, if he says, no, we're going to go a different direction, we're going to go with the traditional language, I think his staffers, who are further left than normal Democratic voters and further left than the rest of the country, get mad at him and revolt. So they have an issue there, too, where standing up causes you a problem.
Faiz, the most charitable thing I could think about that happened in Wisconsin was that Governor Evers and maybe his top lieutenants didn't read the bill and didn't know it was in there. But I'm not sure what's worse. They signed it knowing it was in there, or signed it without knowing it was in there. Last word to you.
Yeah, that and it's like in search of a problem. Like, what solution are we trying to solve for here? And again, you got Supreme Court issues in Wisconsin. You got Medicaid issues. You got Head Start issues. You got Meals on Wheels issues in Wisconsin. Focus on those, please. Defend the role of government to improve people's lives. That's what I'd like to see a Democratic Party do.
All right, Faiz and Mary Katharine Ham, thanks for being with us today.